right, welcome everyone to the very first episode of a possible new series of shows that I might start doing called Trade Secrets. Now, this idea kind of spun off of a combination of my buddy Wayseeker reaching out to me, showing me a couple of trade paperbacks that were selling extraordinarily high that we're actually going to cover in this first video here. But he gave me a little heads up on some of those, and it got me thinking that, you know what? That's something not many people are talking about these days, and it is a fun little side topic, a little side collectible niche that we can hit up every now and then and hit up those collected editions, those trade paperbacks, those hardcovers, omnibus, etc. That kind of reprinted, reissued material, and well, sometimes original material as well, but by and large, it's usually reprinted stuff from the floppies. Like I said, that's partly where the idea came from. It started there with Wayseeker again reaching out to me about those books, as well as me remembering an old article over on comicbookinvest.com that was done by Phil Newton. He did about 40 articles covering this very topic called Trade Secrets. He hasn't done one since 2020, so it's been a few years. So I'm going to see if I can try to bring the article back and do my own little spin on it and cover some of the books that he might have touched upon before, as well as a bunch of others that I already got on a list that I put together in my downtime this past week while I was at work. I was just running through plenty of ideas of some books that I noticed that actually do pretty well if you go and search for them. In on those shelves or wherever you can find those books, because trade paperbacks are a different animal. You can not only find them at comic book stores, you can find them at yard sales, bookstores, used bookstores, all different kinds of places. So trade paperbacks are a completely different animal than your regular, your regular comic book. So with that all said, I think it's going to be a fun topic. Let me know what you guys think of this topic in the comments down below. Please make sure that you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. You keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. We did hit our magical 3K number, so I will be announcing some giveaways probably next week once I get back to my regular schedule. But for now, like I said, dropping this on my off week because I'm on vacation actually right now. But I figured I'd make this video early and drop it while I was out to try it out, again, on you guys. So again, your feedback will be very helpful and beneficial. While I got ideas of some future episodes already planned kind of in my head, I'm open to suggestions. Throw some ideas out to me. And like I said, just generally tell me what you think. And with that all said, enough of the lead in. After this first, quick little new intro, I'm going to go through our very first episode of Trade Secrets. So, just hang on for a second. All right, well, I guess let's just get right into it then. Starting us off, I'm going to hit up a topic that is very close to my heart. As you can see from here, I just did a Hidden Gems focusing on this very subject. And yeah, I can't get enough of G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe is back. They're back with Skybound, but let's not forget about those classic Marvel issues as well. There's tons of things we could talk about with, from the Marvel issues to the IDW run, etc. But today we're going to focus in on the reprinted classic Marvel editions that were collected, not all that long ago. So these are things you might be able to again find at an old Barnes and Noble, at a Ollie's, or some Goodwill or used bookstore. These are things just again keep your eye out for. You never know where you might find some of this stuff. Case in point, not going to hit up every volume. Certain volumes do better than others, so I'm going to try to spotlight the ones that I can see either sell or have higher asking prices than most. So that's kind of where the focus will be. We will add more volumes and issues along the way. If I miss something, like I said, mention it in the comments down below. It can't hurt to share that information with the rest of the community. That said, as you've been looking at this cover for now a few seconds, Volume 14 is the one we're going to start off with. And this is, as you can see, Cobra Commander. We got Megatron. This collects issues 135 to 145 of that original Marvel run where we did have that crossover with the Transformers. MSRP, this was the cover price for this trade paperback when it came out, was only $25. Yeah, that's the standard kind of price for some of these larger volumes. But even though it might have cost $25 at jump, let's see what it does now. Sold prices? Well, we got November 4th sale for $85, back in October, $83, and in September, $65 as examples of pretty recent sales. So That's well over that $25 mark. So that's a nice little increase, double, triple your investment if you bought it for cover price or the MSRP price. One out there right now is asking $120. That's the only one I can find on the market on eBay right now. So $120 is what they're asking. So again, not saying what you should do, but if you find this book out there and if it's cover price or less, $25 or less, you make the call on what you want to do with this because you might be able to make yourself a few dollars, or at the very least, get yourself a pretty cool collected trade paperback covering a nice crossover of G.I. Joe and Transformers. That said, moving on to our next volume. This next volume is actually the one that, again, spawned this idea coming from Wayseeker, who threw this out to me and said, have you seen what this volume 15 from G.I. Joe is doing? Some crazy prices. Volume 15, also a $25 MSRP. This collects the next volume of books, so 146 to 155, which is basically the end of the Marvel run. So this is the last trade covering that end of the Marvel comics series before it got picked up by IDW, continued, etc. Don't forget there was Devil's Due and Image mixed in there as well. Bottom line is, this is collecting the final issue at Marvel. Now, some of these prices are a little... I don't know. I got to look into it further. I don't know what else to do, but here, check this out. Recent sales. This was in the last week or two. $630 on 31 bids. November 9th, the week before, $510 on 45 bits. Or was that 46 bits? I can't really see it. It's kind of small. That's a lot of action, a lot of activity. Is that shenanigans? I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell because regularly this thing still sells for, as you can see, $170 to over $200. So those crazy high prices may not be out of line if for some reason folks are just really zeroing in on that end of the Marvel run. I don't know. But look at those prices. Pretty crazy. That said, there is one currently at auction right now. Only $39, but it's got a few days left. This is actually, that one's probably going to end before you guys actually see this this show, because like I said, I'm filming this early before I go on vacation and I'm going to drop it later. So that one is probably going to be ended by the time you see this, because I plan to stick this on the Tuesday slot with Hidden Gems and Chasing Ghosts for next week. So we'll see what happens with that $39 one. But the last two, $500 and $600, kind of crazy. Doesn't hurt if you can find this out there. Right? You walking around, you find a Walden Books in some old mall or something like that. Who knows what you might find on those shelves? Go look. Go digging. Another little fun little thing you can do, especially if you're out regular shopping. This is things you can go and, like I said, you can go find at Barnes & Noble or something like that. Who knows where you might find your used books? That said, I got one more G.I. Joe. Again, it's not going to be a whole G.I. Joe show. We did that already for Hidden Gems, but I do have one more G.I. Joe volume I wanted to cover, and that is volume 17. So we're skipping 16 because that one actually doesn't do all that much. It's kind of close to the retail price. So the retail price here for issue 17 is $30. Joe Mad working on this cover back in 2015. Look at that. Not too bad. This one covers the follow-up series. So now we're beyond the Marvel run, and we're covering issues 166 to 175 at IDW. But still, this thing does all right for itself. As you can see here, a recent copy sold. Oh, well, actually not that recent. It was back in August, but still, this thing sold for $50. So it cost 30, sold for 50, and then the copies that are available right now, again, August was a long time ago. 2 copies listed right now. One wants $70. The other one wants $150. Just saying. Some seriously high asking prices for some of these trades because they are hard to find. A lot of these, you'll see OOP in a lot of the listings. That's out of print because they don't print these anymore. There might be new volumes, new editions. Sometimes the re-release and new volumes and new editions can hurt the price of some of these collected editions. Other times it doesn't because they're treat them kind of like reprints, first printing books. Again, it's not always one for one. Not everything is the same. We'll get into some other examples as we do more of these shows, but the quick thought process is if this is the only collected edition, those are generally harder to find and more sought after if that's the only game in town. If they re-release it, well, it can hurt the value of the original, but at the same time, Much like first and second print comics, just because there's a second printing doesn't mean that first print's going in the tank, because there's another option you can read. Well, like I said, it's a different animal a bit. It's not exactly one for one with comics. So it's just interesting. That's why I'm showing you both sale prices and asking prices. So you can make the decision on your own what you would like to do if you come across any of these things. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just sharing information that I find interesting and you might find helpful. That said, pivoting away from G.I. Joe, let's go check out another one of my favorites. Yeah, I put a lot of my favorites in this first episode because, well, it's my show, so I'll pick the things I like. And one of the other things I like is Silver Surfer. So, rumors aside of them gender switching Silver Surfer in the upcoming Fantastic Four movie and all that, doesn't matter. I'm not too worried about that. What the MCU is not the same as the comics. So, I don't know why everybody has to treat them as the same. It's a different medium. Let them do something different. That all said, this Stan Lee Mobius run was only 2 issues. 2 issues, mind you. And there are multiple reprints of this. But certain ones, for one reason or another, stand out. This particular one actually does have a hardcover version as well, but the trade paperback version of this Parable looks like this with this border. Again, there's other options, which can make this tricky when you're looking, but this particular version with this border, with the Stan Lee Mobius at the top, $14.99 when it came out. This covers those 2 issues that I mentioned from 1988, Silver Surfer 1 and 2. This specific one does okay for a $14.99 buy-in. $50, once over $25 with only 1 bid back in September. Again, some of these things at auction, this isn't the thing you would auction. You don't auction trade paperbacks. Well, unless you got that G.I. Joe book. I mean, look what that did. So I guess that's not entirely true. It is not the same. So maybe you do auction these things. But just looking at this particular book, auction only had 1 bid, $25, and then there was a buy it now for just about $50. On the market right now, $50, $60, $70 are the options for a little small collected. Again, this is only 2 issues. 30th anniversary edition. That's what this one is, released in 2020. So that's how you can tell if you want to open it up and take a peek. That's the other thing. These aren't sealed. Like a lot of times, hardcovers could be sealed. Trade paperbacks generally are not sealed. You can kind of open it up and check the indica, or I don't know how you say it properly, but you know what I'm saying. You can check the printing and all that stuff, the printing date, etc. That said, still could be a $50 find if you find this thing. That's all I'm saying. So there's another fun one for you to go look at, as well as this one. This has the look of one of those huge collected editions. This is a Batman. This is Second Chances, covering the Jim Starlin, Jim Aparo run. $20 to buy this when it came out. This covers Batman issues 402, 403, 408 to 416, and annual number 11. Basically, this is going to be giving us, Jason Todd. As you can see, right on the cover, we're getting those the early intro to Jason Todd into Batman's universe. That said, surprisingly, this $20 buy-in for this trade paperback could net you $80, $220, $120. Inconsistent pricing there, but still up to $220, $80 up to $220. One on the market right now, $125. Just saying. Granted, I probably could go in and look deeper and see if there was a best offer accepted on that $220. It doesn't look like a best offer accepted, but who knows? Could have been. That all said, condition sensitive as well. I mean, people do look at these like comics, so if it's a really well-read copy, it's obviously not going to sell or do as well as a minty fresh, unopened, never read new edition. So keep that in mind as well when you're out there hunting. That said, if you find an old trade at a flea market, don't leave it behind. If it costs you a couple bucks, it could be still worth a good chunk of change. I'm just saying, don't expect top dollar value for your well-read, beat, and well-loved copy. That's all I'm saying. So if you have this, you're like, oh man, that's my copy. And I'll get to my example in a minute. But for now, this is the Batman one I wanted to share with you. Pivoting away from Batman and away from DC, we're going to go over to another one of my favorite areas, which is Star Wars. Plenty of options here we could have went with Star Wars, but for today, I'm going with the Epic Collection. So these are reprinting, Marvel reprinting a lot of that Dark Horse material. So, as you know, Star Wars comics were at Dark Horse for a good long while. This is Marvel reprinting a lot of that stuff into these huge volumes that covers a lot of books. Like, these are real thick. That's why this is a $40 buy. It's $40 for this thing, and it's pretty thick. Why? Because, as you can guess from the cover, this is covering Heir to the Empire, all 6 issues of that, the follow-up 6-issue series, Dark Force Rising, as well as the final trilogy, the final in the trilogy, another 6-issue series, The Last Command. So there's 18 comics that are stacked and reprinted in this big boy book, $40. Now, $40, you're like, how much of an upside is? You're not going to go spend $40 just to sell it for 50. Like that's not really a lot of premium there, not a lot of work, a lot of bang for your buck for your effort. But when you see that this thing could sell for $200, $225, $225, $40 doesn't seem like a bad buy-in if you can get 200 for it, right? Another reason why I'm sharing this information with you, so now you know, in case you see this book, it could be worth it. It could be worth picking up. And with that, there were no copies available for this particular volume. There's other Star Wars reprints. Again, don't take this as every trade paperback is worth money. That is not the case. It's obvious. What they're reprinting is very important. This is Heir to the Empire, which hence why it probably has a lot of interest, because a lot of people can't afford the regular Heir to the Empire run, so they look for the trade editions. That said, it still gets itself its own nice little premium. So, based off of that, it's not just if it's the only game in town, the only reprinted edition, it's what it's actually reprinting could also be it also really factors into how much these things can go for. That said, a lot of the other Star Wars ones don't do much. This one does pretty well, and there are none out there right now. Also, to follow up on this one, the next volume in this same New Republic series, this is technically volume 5. That was volume 4, by the way. You might see it listed that way, or how you might find it on the shelf. Because sometimes with trades, you're also going to only see the side. Maybe that's something I can show if I can find the info. A little sidebar, so you know what you're looking at when you see the side of the book. Like, here, let me grab my. Well, this is an art book. It's not a trade paperback. But you see, like, here's the front. Sure, I could show you that all I want, but a lot of times you'll see them just like on bookshelves, and right behind it, you're going to only see this part. So you don't know what you're actually looking at until you pull it off the shelf. Possibly. That's it. Another $40 buy-in on this one could still, get you a nice little chunk of change. This one covers a lot too. This is Dark Empire 1 through 6, Dark Empire 2, 1 through 6. You got Empire's End 1 and 2, a handbook. You got handbook number 3. But you can see all down below. It covers a lot of books. Again, thick editions. A lot of things covered and reprinted here in this book. That said, it does well. Not as well as the other. $70, $150, $85. So you could double up pretty easily, maybe more. No copies available. Again, Dark Empire is not nearly as popular as Heir to the Empire, so obviously it's not going to be as as pricey, but still worth knowing and still worth keeping an eye out for. All right, I'll say this: the genre in and of itself is does pretty well for trades, because this genre crosses comic collectors. It goes beyond comic collectors, I should say, and that is horror. So horror comics have their own, collectors in and of themselves, but horror movie fans and horror fans in general do like collecting as well. And they kind of cross paths here with comic collectors when we get into these trade paperbacks. And a perfect example is this. Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. Talked about this series before. I think it was on Hidden Gems. But yes, big crossover, icons, horror icons. Trade paperback, only $18 on the shelf. Only $18 on the shelf. It covers the whole miniseries. All 6 issues of the miniseries are covered here. That said, $18 on the aftermarket, it's more like $130, $135. So you can see off of recent sales, asking prices, well, $170, $200, $225 for this little trade paperback. Because again, horror fans, it's a whole other market that's kind of dipping in here, and they will pay. They will pay for things, just like comic collectors will pay. It's just a whole nother market. It expands the market, more people interested, and not enough to go around. So keep that in mind too. So if you can stumble into your Freddy versus Jason versus Ash trade paperback, you might have found yourself a couple $100. Now, going back to that idea of a well-read, well-loved copy, our next book is a classic. This is how I read this series, The Crow, from way back in the day. I read The Crow, in my trade. I didn't have the floppies. I didn't get the original comics. I didn't get like the Caliber stuff. I got this kitchen sink press trade paperback. This is what I had. This is what my copy looks like. It's around here somewhere. It's buried in a box. Well loved, beat up red copy. And it was this one. I remember it specifically. $15.95. A little bit of different price there. Was the cost on this. Now, this thing has multiple printings. Most of the ones you'll see, or most of the later printings you'll see, were ones that were released when the movie came out. Yes, the Brandon Lee movie is also why I gained interest in this series as well. Got caught by attention. I was like, oh, what is this? Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son. I want to check this thing out. Yes, but a lot of those later prints, third prints, fifth prints, etc., have this on it, which is now a major motion picture. You see the now a major motion picture on the top, that's going to be a later printing. Doesn't do nearly as well. So get it to read it, etc. The blank cover is the one you might want to keep an eye out for. It collects all the issues, etc. $16, not too bad. The first print edition, you can even see them out on my comic shop, etc. has copies. They sell here and there, but $100 this thing could sell for. As you can see, a copy sold right there for that first print edition. Available copies could be anywhere from $40 to $90 up to $240. Again, condition sensitive. Like that $40 copy is $40 for a reason, because it's going to have some spine creases and some ticks and bends, etc. Again, much like magazines being a different animal from comics, trade paperbacks are as well. It's not necessarily a no-go because something's been opened and read, but you obviously will get more for a minty fresh copy that hasn't been cracked, opened, and read, and etc. So just keep that in mind too. But still, not a bad return if you can find that one too. Getting into, I think, our last little run of books. Again, I want to do too many. I'm going to try to cover like a dozen different books, kind of like Chasing Ghosts. Got to keep it in that range so we don't keep the show too long, keep it fresh. I can keep doing a few more, touch upon a few different ideas, etc. So it's not too heavily focused in on any one series, because we could do that. And I might do that from time to time, because some series, all of the trades are worth looking at. Get to that down the line. Again, like I said, I already got a list of things I want to do. I already got a whole list. My spreadsheet's full, packed with at least another 4 or 5 shows already without even doing too much work. So that all said, let's get to the final 3 for today's show, which are going to start off with Hellblazer. Yeah, I know you saw it on the thumbnail, so you knew we were going to be getting to John Constantine. Also, a character I like. This run, I do not have most of the copies in this Constantine run. I mean, it was like 300 issues. It was a lot. Like, I got a chunk of it, but I do not have the whole run. A lot of great writers in and out during that time. Some names you know, with the Steve Dillons, Garth Ennis, you got Lee Bermejo, etc. Jock. These are names you know now doing covers today that you're like, oh, I got to get that new Bermejo cover, that new Jock cover. They were just doing things like Hellblazer back in the day. That said, MSRP on this is, I think this is volume, I want to say it's 16. Anyway, $25 on this one. I want to say this is 16. Collects Hellblazers issues 175 to 188. Just to double check it, I'm going to bring up the next slide. Yes, it is volume 16. I wasn't sure. Like, it doesn't say it clearly on the front. And, like I said, I put this together earlier, sitting down and doing this all off the top of the head. So with that said, this one, what was it, $25 to buy in? Yeah, it can get you 50. It can get you up to 100 on those other sales as well. Asking prices right now, 150. Yeah, not cheap. I'm telling you, some of these trades are not cheap. And some people like collecting things in trade paperback form, especially long runs of books like this. I mean, 300 issues, that's a lot of individual comics for you to go and track down and find. Some people might like to collect and read things specifically in trade. Personally, that's how I read The Walking Dead. I did not buy all the floppy comics of The Walking Dead. In fact, I avoided most of them because it was just too much. It was too much to go back to. Like, by the time it got popular, I wasn't reading it from the jump. So I couldn't take that claim like, oh, yeah, I was on The Walking Dead from the beginning. I wasn't. I was brought into it by the show. And I was like, okay, this is pretty good. But I'm not going to go back and spend all that money for those comics, but I can go back and read these trade paperbacks because they're much more affordable. You get good chunks of the story all put together, easy, and you can display them nicely on your shelf. You get the whole little run. Again, trade paperback collecting, something completely different. That said, Moving on to our next example, I think this is issue 18, which is a little bit more expensive. This was a $30 buy-in, $30 MSRP on this one. This is covering the storyline The Gift, issues 202 to 215. So again, we're like a 2/3 into the run of Hellblazer there. This one in particular also does pretty well. $130, $90, and there was a $50 sale as well. Again, out of print trades. Some of these things can go for a lot of different prices. The range could be double your investment to triple, quadruple, multiple times over. Asking prices right now, I found a couple of examples looking for $120, $130. So if it's $30 on the shelf somewhere, it's $120, $130 on eBay. Just saying. Not saying you're going to find them. I'm not saying just because you go to your Barnes & Noble, you're going to go find a Hellblazer, volume 18. A lot of this stuff, again, it's out of print. It's been moved and shifted off. But there's a lot of other places you can go and look, from used bookstores to Goodwills to, again, flea markets, yard sales, wherever you're stumbling into things. Just good information to have, and just another avenue of things that you can go and collect and kind of help pass the time. Because I know we all love going out and hitting up comic stores and digging in those boxes, but sometimes you're out with the family and you just stumble and you're in a mall somewhere and you see, oh, used bookstore. Well, I can sneak away for 5 minutes and see what they got in here. Go check to see if they got trade paperbacks. You're on vacation. You're at the shore or something like that at a beach house, and you go into the small town and hey, they got a Goodwill or they got a bookstore. Let me just go look, see what they got. Who knows? Maybe they got some of these old collectibles and they don't know what they have because that's not what they do. It's a bookstore. They don't care about comics. That said, one left for you before we wrap up here today. And our final one is this volume of Hellblazer. This is number 20, $25 buy-in. I like this cover a lot. Systems of Control is the storyline that they're covering. This is collecting Hellblazer's 230 to 238 and the it looks like the one-shot All His Engines. So getting all those issues inside this one, and this one ain't cheap. It's another one that stood out to me when I was doing my research. Recent sales, $455. Best offer on $406. Two bids, $275. $275 to $455. Those are sales that were completed. And that $455 was just November. So it's only in a week or so ago. Wasn't that long ago. And the only copy available right now, if you wanted to go shopping for this on eBay at least, it's $450. $450 for a $25 trade paperback. Not some rare, only 5 printed error edition. Nope. It was a trade paperback that was available to all. Just not many people ordered it, bought it. More people want it now. We get crazy prices. I don't know. I thought this is an interesting topic. I'm kind of excited to cover it here and there. Let me know again what you guys think in the comments down below. Any suggestions? If you want to see more of these, definitely we'll do more. So with that all said, I'd like to thank you all for stopping by. Thank you for all the support. As I said, I got plenty more ideas, plenty more things to cover here on the channel in the time to come. 2024 will be here soon enough, and we'll be doing a lot of more fun stuff for you guys here on the channel. Again, thank you for helping me get to 3,000 subscribers. We will be doing some sort of big giveaway very soon. Maybe I'll announce it, like I said, when I come back. Maybe we'll probably announce it on TAC or something like that. What we're going to be doing in the month of December to celebrate hitting that minor milestone as we make our way to the next milestone, which will be 4K. So, again, having fun doing this. Hopefully you're enjoying the ride as well. Thank you, and I'll see you all later with some more content. All right?